Hi, my Scaredy Cats. My name is Kate from Scaredy Cat Gaming, and we are back in with a case of distrust. Sorry, I may or may not have forgotten the name of this game. um, so we left off about where we were going to go next, because Green was shot and killed, so we need to figure out where we're going to go from there. So, let's go. Let's go to Green's house. You know, we've only been there once. Mrs. Green had pleaded with me at the police station. I hope she will be more helpful than she had been the previous day. We're gonna go meet up with her and see if she can give us some information. I waved down a taxi cab and was on my way. I thought I might talk with the driver to pass the time. Okay. Makar, stay up. Sorry. I have this Makar plushie that sits on my, we'll call it a desk, and it falls down every once in a while. I love this job, he told me, as we turned the corner of Polk and Bush Streets. Used to work in a plant across the bay with my two brothers. You know how boring that gets. Bang this, push that. What a life. We weren't made for factories. Sure, they get paid more. They're part of a union. They have good pensions, but they can't beat this, he said, revving his engine. Such freedom. We spoke about his love of the open road until we reached my destination. The Green's apartment was okay, that's still the same. I came upon the Green house and knocked on the door. This time Miss Green opened it quickly. Miss Malone, she panted, with noticeable shock in her eyes. I'm just frightened about people knocking at my door, she said by way of explanation. After what happened to my husband, everything feels so cold. Oh, I'm blabbering. Please, come inside. She led the way to 2 chairs, and we sat down. She was more awake than the previous day, but her hair was a bit tousled, and her S's hang in the air long enough to belly her lack of complete sobriety. Have you found anything about my husband's killer? She asked. I shook my head and replied that there was nothing definite just then. I said I would need to ask her some questions that might spark the investigation. She straightened in her chair and replied with, certainly. Ask about notes. It seems your husband was from St. Louis. I put to her. She squirmed, but said nothing, so I pressured her. Miss Green, I'm investigating his death. You're right, she sighed. He had told me he was from out east, though he lied to everyone else. He claimed he had to flee from his past. I never asked the details, so that's all I know. And you're the first person I've told. He also had 2 train tickets to get there, I continued. Oh, that's me. He also had 2 train tickets to get there, I continued. He wanted to return? Well, those tickets have no date printed on them, she paused, looking at me from underneath long lashes, and continued. He was thinking of going back there. I guess whatever trouble he had was blowing over. But I refused. I told him I wanted to stay in San Francisco. Whenever Connor and I quarreled, a sharp wavering inhale cut off her sentence. Well, he kept them around to brandish, to show me that he loved me, and that he stayed here only for me. I nodded and we spoke about something else. The letter that your husband received had a small black hand on it. That hand, I explained, is a symbol of the notorious Black Hand Gang. Miss Green's eyes went wide. Yes, but, I continued, it was a fake. The Black Hand doesn't run this far west. So who wrote it then? She asked. I told her that I thought her husband had written the letter, and that I thought his bootlegging scheme was a bust. He also had those tickets to St. Louis. I think his plan was to fake his death and use me as a cover while running back home. She sighed. I don't know about his dealings, Malone. What were you doing last night? I asked. Her expression was surprised, but I told her that I just need to place everyone in their locations, Miss Green. I just need to place everyone in their locations, Miss Green, to get a full picture of the evening. Of course, she said. Let's see. I was singing with the band, the show ending at about 10 o'clock. Then we went up to the billiard hall. Oh, it haunts me that Connor was so close when he was killed. She winced. But none of us heard anything. With how loud we were and how sealed the building is. How late were you in the pool room? I asked. Until early in the morning, say 2 or 3. I nodded and moved on to further questions. I got next to nothing out of her with that. Alright, well let's go on to the spoon one then. How did you end up at Sulphur and Coffee yesterday? I asked her. I told you. I followed Connor to your apartment. I became furious when I saw he was calling on another woman and why you were shadowing your husband to begin with. I pressed. And why were you shadowing your husband to begin with? Oh, that? She stuttered silently. Well, I had heard rumors that Connor might have been unfaithful. I discovered they were baseless, but, well, a wife never truly knows. That is why I followed you all the way to Southern Coffee. I had to know the truth, Miss Malone. I don't want to accuse her yet. I don't know anything. I don't even know a motive. Do you know of anybody with any reason whatsoever to kill your husband? I asked her. She mentioned her husband had been a bootlegger, then turned on the waterworks for a few minutes. I got her calmed down and asked, were there any domestic quarrels? She pouted at the question. Every marriage has its quarrels, Miss Malone, she snapped. But I loved him dearly. It's part of the job to ask, Miss Green, I assured her. I decided to tackle something else. Do you have any knowledge of any weapon used to kill your husband? I asked her. You mean, do I know anything about guns? I'm sorry, Miss Malone. I wouldn't even know where to get one. I nodded and changed my line of questioning. Okay, so I got some things out of her. Not much. But... I glanced at the coat that hung on the rack. Where did you get this? I asked. Her unfocused eyes moved to the gray coat. Connor brought it home one day. It was too small for his frame, but I thought it looked swell on me. Seems built for a man, I said. Sure, but it's the freedom age, darling. We can wear anything or even nothing at all. I motioned to the bottles on the ground. Yes, I'd make a terrible housemaid. Yes, I'd make a terrible housemaid. It's hard for a working girl to understand. In many ways I did, but my clutter was less inebriating, and I told her so. Sometimes the vocal cords need a little lubrication, she smiled. I don't really believe you. I just want to see if I can get anything out of any of these. The wilting plant. pointed at the wilting flower. It's a struggle to keep any plants alive. Oh, it's a struggle to keep any plants alive, I said. Yes, but I can't say no to yellow chrysanthemums. I can't pronounce that word. They are so warm, brighten the entire room. Can I get anything else out of it? Okay, so she didn't say anything else about any of this. I nodded my thanks for her answers, then turned back to the room. Is there anything else I can interact with now? Nope, there doesn't seem to be anything else I can interact with, so I'm just gonna leave. Oh, the frame was just warped enough to prevent the front door from completely closing. We're gonna go to the Tin Spoon, because that's the closest place to where he was murdered. Green had been killed outside the Tin Spoon. I should go there to look for clues of his murder. That'd be best. I hailed a driver, gave him the address, and stepped through the back door. I debated talking with the driver. Nah, not now. But just then I felt my exhaustion and decided to rest my eyes until we reached our destination. I arrived again at the old warehouse turned speaky, its wooden sign still barely holding onto the frame of the building. I rapped my knuckles on the same metal door. Instead of the usual dark eyes, the door swung open to reveal Fred Grant. He let out a PC! Good seeing ya. With more whiskey on his breath than a fire breather. He stumbled down the next few steps, and I caught his limp body. All loose ends tied up, he said, winking at me, while he tried to stand still. Through the doorman in the back of the wagon, he continued. He says nobody came in or out from the upstairs billiards hall last night. A hiccup interrupted Grant's thoughts. You know, I believe him, but the bulls need someone to work on, and putting welts on this goon will make the afternoon go faster. He again tried to stand upright, failing at that. He stumbled to his police car, got behind the wheel, let the sirens loose, and drove the machine around the corner. I continued up the stairs to find a similar scene as the day before, only Tina Pole had been replaced by a young woman, idly playing with a deck of cards scattered across the billiards table. The balls were gone from billiards table. In their place were some betting chips and cards strewn across the felt. I counted 5 across, 5 aces and 2 aces of hearts. I could see the tears welled in the girl's eyes. I approached the young woman and looked her up and down. I studied her clothes. She wore an olive scarf tied around her head. Her dress was a darker green, with long tassels that shimmered yellow. Even in the dim light of the billiards hall, it was cut above the knee, indicating she was likely a performer with the band. Who are you? I asked. She said in a clear, strong voice, I'm Ella Smith. I work nights as a backing singer. She added in a more delicate tone, but, well, last night I had a bit too much of the cider. The whole band was here, playing a long game of poker and singing after work. I wondered if she had been in the billiards room since the previous evening. Perhaps she didn't want to talk about her night. It might embarrass a young woman. But I had to know the story. And you're still here? I asked her. I came to this morning. A blush interrupted her before she continued her thought. I was lying on the pool table when I heard the cop banging on the metal door. I asked. I want to know about both, but I want to know this more. I asked about Grant, changing the subject from her drinking. I think she appreciated that. He was curious about the shooting outside last night. You know a man dead? You know a man died, but I didn't hear a peep. I don't think we could have heard anything through all that racket. I realized she was related to the Green case, at least partially. I had to pump her for information. Do you know anybody would have reason to kill Connor Green? I put to her. She looked at me, puzzled. I explained myself. Miss, I'm just a private detective looking into the matter. I needed to follow up with everyone. She looked surprised when I said private detective, but she didn't comment on it no further. No, I'm not sure. I heard Connor came around here on a regular a few years back. That's how he and Fanny met, but that was before my time. I never saw him much. Green was killed around midnight, I told her. Do you remember anything from then? She turned red in an instant. Midnight was the time I sang all by myself to the crowd up here. How do you know it was midnight? I asked. Well, last New Year's Eve, at exactly midnight, me and Lil Fanny, you know, our lead, did a swell duet for the boys. They wanted to hear it again, but she wasn't around to sing it, so I did it alone. No, Fanny wasn't around? I asked. But the doorman says nobody from the billiard room left the joint. I shrugged. Maybe she was in the toilets. I didn't go looking for her. Look, I never get to sing lead. They don't like us Chinese girls doing that. So I took my chance. How could I turn it down? How could I turn it down? She asked. Well, anyhow, after that song is when I really drowned down some gin. I didn't much like it, but they said it was good for me, and I was riding high with everyone watching. I don't remember much after that. I thanked her for the tip. So, you claim you were in here at midnight? I asked. That's right, she said. I nodded and asked her about something else. Do you know anybody who had a gun that could kill Green? I asked. She chuckled at my question. I don't know if you know this. Well, this place is a type of gangster hideout. No one in the band has shooters, of course, but just about everybody else in the building is carrying something. That was no help in narrowing my list of suspects, but I nodded my understanding. You don't carry a gun yourself? You don't carry a gun yourself? I asked. She shook her head. No, ma'am. No shooters in the band. She deemed adamant on that point. I nodded and asked her about something else. So I'm getting somewhere. I'm getting more somewhere with this person. Where's Tiny Paul? I asked. I need to see him. Paul's likely as tired as I am. After the band finished downstairs, we all came up to play poker. Paul and the boys were at it the entire night, so I assume he's at home. I asked if she knew where Paul's home was, but she shook her head. No, Paul and I aren't close. I took her at her word and asked her about something else. Those cards aren't the cards you're fiddling with? I asked. Are they the same ones that the boys were playing with last night? She said they were. I don't know anything about that. Okay. Nope, she doesn't know anything about that either. Okay. About the gun that killed Green, I said. As I told you, she said. All of our customers typically have shooters, but nobody in the band carries any heat. Okay, so the letter, she said she knew nothing about it. If she knew Connor Green's past, she told me she knew nothing about it. He died at midnight. Okay, I don't want to accuse her anybody yet. She was holding back tears. I said I noticed she'd been crying and asked her why. Her lower lip wavered, but she managed to stop it before any tears could get through. It's that copper who was just here. He kept wanting me to feed him drinks, and the more I put in him, the more fresh he got with me. She heaved a sigh. Should have smacked him, I told her. She laughed and exclaimed, You know I did just that. I probably shouldn't have smacked a copper, but it felt good finally sucking one of them. Anyhow, I'm just frantic because of the booze. I'm sure it'll wear off. She turned her gaze back to the cards on the table. She was putting up a strong mask, but I could tell something about Grant's interaction was rattling her. The truth is, most women wear a mask in public. Almost everyone of us has a story about being mistreated, or worse. Me too. What else do you want to know? She asked, interrupting my thoughts. But she told me she knew nothing new. Hester Green's wife sang here under the Fasonum Lil Fanny, and the Smith nodded in affirmation. I told Smith that Green had bootlegging team going with Tiny Paul. She recorded, I don't know what that mobsters are doing, and I don't care. Alright, well, she doesn't seem to be giving me anything. Let her alone. I turned back to the room. Alright, so I got something out of her. Let's go to the barber shop. I thought I'd plan Stable a visit. Just barber shop. Let's go see what he's up to. I don't think he'll give me much information, but maybe he will. I don't want to talk to you. I peered out the window until we arrived. The barber shop was down an alley of financial district opposite the red brick National Bank. There was a man seated in the barber chair, tapping his foot and staring at me. I didn't see Stable anywhere. Talk to him. He stared at me with a grin that extended to his eyes. He was wearing a barber's cape, which told me he was here for a haircut. I wondered why Stable had left this man mid-trim. I asked how he was doing. Swell, he answered. Yes, very swell indeed. Thank you, miss. His words came out of jovial as his expression, and they held a slight and affable southern tint. A few more pleasantries returned, equally verbose responses with no meat in them. They piqued my interest. A stranger in Stable's barber chair, with no sign of Stable around. Who are you? I asked with genuine curiosity. I'm merely a mortal man enjoying my life at this very moment, he replied, looking me up and down, and there is much to enjoy. I heaved a sigh in response. Last night's headache hadn't fully disappeared, making me too tired to play any of his games. He frowned slightly. I'm merely paying a compliment, he said. You modern girls get your stockings all knotted whenever someone calls you pretty. I asked again. Who are you? My name is Ray Carter, regular jazz bassist at the Tin Spoon Lounge. I did not see that coming. Though I suppose any lady with an attitude like yours never gets around to speakies. He worked at the Tin Spoon. That surprised me. Were you there last night? I asked. Until early morning, he gleamed. I happened to be winning a nice bucket of change at the poker table. Just about everyone was saying they never saw someone play cards so well, but I suppose you don't gamble either. I let that jab go and wondered if he was at all related to this case. He painfully disliked my demeanor. I thought that answers might be hard to get from him. He saw me taking notes and asked, and are you some sort of continental operative? When I nodded, he let out a whistle and said, a woman detective! Well, that is almost as swell a sight as a black man in a white man's barber chair. Ask about notes. Did you have any reason to kill Green? I asked him directly. You know little Fanny is 2 nickels straight, he said, but I never supposed that killing Green would get me any closer. No, miss, I had no motive for that. Alright. I suppose that sounded alright to me. Green died around midnight. I put to him. I was inside all night with the band and Tiny Paul playing poker. We heard no shots in the racket. I nodded and asked about something else. Did you have access to the gun Green was shot with? I asked him. A black man with a cannon? He laughed. Miss, if I held one in the Tin Spoon, I would lose more than my job. Much more than my job. Those boys do not treat me like they do you, pretty lady. I like to keep my neck, so no, I do not carry one, nor do I know where to get one. Let's see. Alright, let's go to... I showed him something in my book and he gave nothing of the note, resulting conversation. Oh, okay. I asked. If you're a bass person, then yeah, you do know about that. Elias Smith tells me little Fanny wasn't in the billiards room at midnight. I put to him. I remember her being there at the beginning and the end of the night, but I cannot keep track of everyone at every time. If Elias seems sure, I have no reason to doubt her. So she was there at the beginning and the end. I gotta fix my glasses. So that I'm not getting anywhere at that. He doesn't know anything about that. Green kicked the can near midnight, I said. Right. Yes, he said. You told me that already. We were all in the billiards room at the time. Okay. I'm gonna tell him what he died from. Did you have access to the... No, I already asked him that. No, I do not carry one. I didn't ask about that. I asked if anybody left. Alright, I asked if anybody left. Why are these all the same? I'm gonna leave him be. He doesn't seem to be able to. I decided I'd leave him be. I knew I could always come back later with more questions. I want to know why he's not here. Alright, well, let's go to Southern Coffee. If I was stuck in a case, I could go grab a drink and shoot the breeze with Frankie. He might give me a good tip. I slipped into the taxi and rocked into a comfortable position on the back seat. I thought about starting a chat with the driver. No, I'm too deep in thought. Well, at least I am. I closed my eyes and leaned on the window until we arrived. Alright. I'm going to end this episode here. I know, it's a weird place to end the episode, but I'm running out of time. So if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel. If you like this video, hit that like button. And if you'd like to follow me on Twitter or Instagram, I'll put the links in the description below. Until next time, my scaredy cat. Bye-bye!